Hey there, future worm farmers! Get ready for an awesome adventure. We're about to start worm composting, which is honestly a super fun way to recycle your food scraps and help our planet. It might sound a little silly, but trust me, worms are amazing. They'll munch on your kitchen waste and turn it into something incredible, nutrient-rich compost. This black gold is like a magic potion for your plants, helping them grow big and strong. The best part? Worm farming is easy, and anyone can do it, even if you don't have a big garden. Are you ready to dive in? Let's get started. Before we welcome our Wiggly friends into their new home, let's make sure we have everything we need to set up a thriving worm farm. Gathering the right supplies is the first step to ensuring your worms are happy, healthy, and ready to turn your kitchen scraps into rich, nutritious compost. Whether you're a seasoned gardener or just starting out, don't worry. Setting up a worm farm is simple, affordable, and doesn't require any fancy equipment. Here's your essential worm farming checklist. Most of these items can be found around your home, at a local hardware store, or even repurposed from things you already have. The goal is to create a cozy, safe environment for your worms to thrive and do their important work. First, you'll need a plastic bin. This will serve as the main habitat for your worms. Choose a bin that's about 10 to 15 gallons in size, big enough to give your worms plenty of space to move around, but not so large that it becomes difficult to manage. Make sure the bin is opaque, as worms prefer darkness, and has a secure lid to keep out pests and curious pets. If you have an old storage container lying around, that works perfectly. Next, grab a drill. You'll use this to make small holes in the sides and lid of your bin. These holes are crucial. They allow for proper airflow, which keeps the environment fresh and prevents your worm bin from getting too damp or smelly. If you don't have a drill, you can use a hammer and nail to carefully punch holes instead. Just be sure to space them out evenly for good ventilation. For bedding, you'll need newspaper. Shred it into thin strips. This will create a soft, absorbent bed for your worms to burrow into. Avoid using glossy or colored pages, as these can contain chemicals that aren't good for your worms. If you don't have newspaper, you can also use plain cardboard or coconut coir as an alternative. The bedding should be moist, but not soggy, mimicking the damp soil worms love in nature. A water spray bottle is another must-have. Worms need moisture to breathe and move comfortably, so you'll use the spray bottle to keep the bedding damp. Check the bedding regularly and mist it as needed. Think of it like keeping a houseplant happy. If you don't have a spray bottle, a cup of water poured gently over the bedding works too. Just be careful not to overdo it. You'll also want a small shovel or trowel. This tool is handy for mixing the bedding, turning the compost, and making sure everything stays aerated. Regularly fluffing the bedding helps prevent compacting, which can make it hard for worms to move and breathe. If you don't have a trowel, even a sturdy spoon or your hands with gloves will do the trick. And finally, the stars of the show, red wiggler worms. These little composting champions are the best choice for home worm bins because they thrive in confined spaces and process organic waste quickly. You can order them online, find them at your local garden center, or even ask a fellow gardener if they have some to share. Once you have your worms, you're ready to start your vermicomposting adventure. With these simple supplies, you'll be well on your way to creating a healthy, productive worm farm that turns your food scraps into garden gold. Let's get that bin ready. Setting up a cozy, healthy home for your worms is the first step to successful composting. Think of this as building a tiny apartment for your new Wiggly roommates. The more care you put into preparing their space, the happier and more productive your worms will be. So let's walk through each step to make sure your worm bin is just right. Remember, worms need air to breathe, just like us. Without enough oxygen, your worms can become stressed or even die, and your compost might start to smell bad. Proper ventilation is absolutely essential for a thriving worm bin. It helps keep the environment fresh and prevents the buildup of harmful gases. First, it's drill time. Carefully drill about 10 to 15 holes in the lid of your bin. These holes will allow fresh air to circulate inside, giving your worms the oxygen they need. Use a drill with a small bit, about a 1/4 inch wide, and space the holes evenly across the lid. If you're worried about flies or other pests, you can cover the holes with a fine mesh or breathable fabric, securing it with tape or glue. Then, drill another 10 to 15 holes around the sides, near the top. These side holes help with cross-ventilation, making sure air can flow in and out from multiple directions. This is especially important if you're keeping your bin indoors, where airflow might be limited. Don't worry about making it look perfect. Function is more important than form here. This will give our worms plenty of fresh air. Good ventilation keeps the bedding from getting too damp and helps prevent mold or unpleasant odors. If you ever notice your bin smelling bad, check to make sure the air holes aren't blocked and add more if needed. Next, drainage is key. Worms don't like soggy beds. Too much moisture can drown your worms and create a smelly, unhealthy environment. The bedding should feel like a wrung-out sponge, moist but not dripping wet. If you squeeze a handful and only a drop or two of water comes out, you're in the right zone. To avoid this, drill a few small holes in the bottom of the bin for drainage. About 6 to 10 holes, evenly spaced, should do the trick. These holes let excess water escape, preventing puddles from forming at the bottom. If you're worried about worms escaping, don't be. They usually stay in the moist bedding, not the dry bottom. Place a tray underneath to catch any excess moisture. This liquid, sometimes called worm tea, can be a fantastic fertilizer for your plants, so don't throw it away. Just empty the tray regularly to keep things tidy and prevent any messes. And finally, finding the perfect spot. Worms prefer dark, cool places, so find a spot for your bin that's out of direct sunlight and away from extreme temperatures. A basement, garage, or even under the kitchen sink can work well. Avoid placing the bin near heaters, radiators, or windows where the sun can heat things up. Keeping your worms comfortable will help them break down food scraps quickly and efficiently, turning your kitchen waste into rich, valuable compost for your garden or houseplants. With your bin prepped and in the right spot, you're ready to welcome your worms to their new home. Now let's make a comfy bed for our worms. First up is shredding time. Grab your newspaper and start shredding, aiming for strips about 1 to 2 inches wide. Next, fill your bin about 2/3 full with the shredded newspaper. Then, water everywhere. Worms love moisture. Use your spray bottle to thoroughly dampen the bedding. It should feel like a wrung-out sponge, not too wet or too dry. Okay, so now it's time to welcome the stars of the show, our red wiggler friends. Just gently add your worms right to the top of the bedding. They might seem a little shy at first, but don't worry. They'll soon burrow down into their new home. Oh, and here's a quick tip. Watch your worms closely for the first few days. If you notice they're hanging out on the sides or even the lid of the bin, it could mean the bedding is either too wet or too dry. So, just adjust things accordingly. Worms are hungry little helpers. They love to munch on your kitchen scraps, turning them into valuable compost. So here's what they love: fruit and vegetable scraps. Just avoid citrus and onions. Coffee grounds and filters, crushed eggshells, and even yard waste like leaves or grass clippings. But there are a few things you should not feed them, like meat and bones, dairy products, oily or greasy foods, and again, citrus fruits and onions. When it's feeding time, start with small amounts of food and make sure to bury it under the bedding. As your worm population grows, you can gradually increase the amount you feed them. Worms are pretty low-maintenance pets, but here are a few tips to keep them thriving. First, keep it moist. Worms breathe through their skin, so it's important to keep the bedding moist. Check it regularly and mist it with water if it feels dry. Next, fluff it up. Use your shovel or trowel to gently fluff the bedding every week or so. This helps to aerate the bin and prevents it from becoming compacted. And don't forget the temperature check. Worms prefer temperatures between 55 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit, so keep your bin in a cool, shaded spot. After a few months, you'll start to see dark, crumbly compost at the bottom of your bin. This black gold is pure garden magic. So here's how to harvest it. First, move the worms by placing fresh bedding on one side of your bin and adding fresh food scraps. The worms will slowly migrate to the new food source. Next is harvest time. Once the worms have moved, you can carefully scoop out the finished compost from the other side. And finally, use it in your garden. Mix the compost into your garden soil or use it to top dress your plants. They'll love you for it. Congratulations! You've just completed your journey to becoming a worm farmer, and that's something to be truly proud of. Whether you started with a single bin on your balcony or a whole system in your backyard, you've taken a meaningful step toward a more sustainable lifestyle. It's not just about raising worms, it's about making a conscious choice to care for the environment, right from your own home. You're now a certified worm farmer. That means you're part of a growing community of people who are passionate about reducing waste and giving back to the earth. Every handful of food scraps you feed your worms is a small act of kindness that adds up over time. It's proof that anyone, no matter their age or experience, can make a difference. But more importantly, you're making a real difference for our planet. Each time you compost, you're helping to reduce the amount of trash that ends up in landfills. It might seem like a small gesture, but when millions of people join in, the impact is enormous. Imagine if every household did what you're doing. Our world would be a much cleaner, greener place. By composting your food scraps, you're reducing landfill waste. Food waste in landfills releases harmful greenhouse gases. When food rots in a landfill, it doesn't break down the way it does in your worm bin. Instead, it produces methane, a powerful greenhouse gas that contributes to climate change. By keeping your scraps out of the landfill, you're helping to protect the air we all breathe. You're also creating nutrient-rich soil, because worm compost helps plants grow strong and healthy. The castings your worms produce are packed with nutrients that help your garden thrive. Whether you're growing flowers, vegetables, or even houseplants, this natural fertilizer gives them everything they need to flourish. It's a simple way to boost your harvest and make your garden more beautiful than ever. And you're closing the loop, turning your waste into a valuable resource. Instead of throwing away leftovers and peels, you're transforming them into something useful. This is what sustainability is all about, finding creative ways to reuse and recycle, so nothing goes to waste. Your efforts help create a cycle where food nourishes worms, worms nourish soil, and soil nourishes new plants. Plus, did you know that a worm can eat half its weight in food every single day? That's an incredible feat for such a small creature. Your worms are working hard behind the scenes, munching away on your kitchen scraps and turning them into black gold for your garden. It's a fascinating process, and it all happens right under your nose. That's like you eating a mountain of snacks. Imagine if you could eat half your body weight in pizza, fruit, or cookies every day. Your worms are true champions of recycling. It's a fun fact to share with friends and family, and it shows just how efficient and important these little creatures are. So there you have it. Worm farming is fun, easy, and good for the planet. It's an activity that brings people together, teaches valuable lessons about nature, and helps create a healthier world for future generations. Whether you're doing it solo or as a family, you're setting an example and inspiring others to join in. What are you waiting for? Start your own worm farm today. Every small action counts, and together we can make a big impact. Your journey doesn't end here. Keep learning, keep composting, and keep sharing your passion for the planet. The earth and your garden will thank you.